a matzah making with Rabbi Chaim. His shiur, we're making matzah. So I thought we'll quickly, obviously you can't touch all the halachot, but in a short, concise manner, let's touch upon the mitzvot, the halachot that pertain to baking matzat mitzvah, baking the matzah that we use for the mitzvah on Leil HaSeder, the night of the Seder. First and foremost, there's a halakha that talks about Mayim Shelanu. So this word Mayim Shelanu is a famous story in the Gemara. Mayim Shelanu in modern day Hebrew you can think it for it to mean my water. But really it's not talking about my water, it's talking about Mayim Shelanu, that water that slept a night. Meaning we are so scared of, God forbid, any type of heating agent coming to make the water and flour become chametz faster, that Chachamim instituted, there are many halachot that pertain to the making of matzah that will eliminate any threat of extra heat to make the dough become chametz faster than we expect it to. One of which being the idea of Mayim Shlanu. What does it mean? Halacha explains that for the matzah that we make for the mitzvah, we have to make sure that the water we use is water that slept overnight. Water is gathered, it's drawn, and overnight it has to sit in a cool, dark area to make sure that it's not warm at all, because warm water can cause it to become chametz sooner. So that's the first halacha that we use is Mayim Shlanu. There's a question in halacha, can you use plastic bottles? It's a modern day question, or does it need to be glass bottles? So we actually brought this up to Rabbi Chaim. The Or Letzion, his students write in his name that he was makpid to use glass bottles based on our specific Rama. Rabbi Yitzchak Yosef says, no, what are you talking about? Plastic bottles is okay. There's no problem whatsoever. As long as it sits overnight, still in a cool, dark place, you're fine to use it as Mayim Shlanu. Rabbi Chaim said we should try to be strict with Halachot Pesach, so he advised to try to get glass bottles, but these are just interesting halachot that pertain to Mayim Shlanu. Next is a question about, what about putting salt in the matzah, in the dough? We know matzah needs to be flour and water. That's it. Anything extra is considered matzah shira, which isn't melchem oni, isn't what we can use for the mitzvah on the night of the Seder. What about adding salt? Salt is a basic ingredient in everything. There's also a machloket. Lechatchila, Rav Ovadia writes that we should not put any salt in our matzah whatsoever. We want it to be strictly flour and water, no salt. There are some places that had the minhag to do so, and if they did accidentally, if they put salt in accidentally, and you have no alternative, you can use that for the mitzvah, but lechatchila, we don't want to use any salt when making the matzah, when mixing the water and the dough. Next, what about when we're making the matzah actually, even though we know about the 18-minute rule, how time it takes to walk a meal, we try not to stop touching and working with the dough at all. Once you start mixing the water and the flour, you're mixing and you're touching the dough until it gets into the oven. Why? Because halakha says any pause, any shehiyah while you're kneading the dough, we are worried that it could cause chametz, God forbid. So we do it rush. We don't stop touching the flour and the water, the dough. We don't stop mixing it until it's in the oven and baking. These are another halakha that's very important. There are many halachot, just to keep it short. Next mitzvah, what about the mitzvah of making the matzah itself? So really there's a minhag to do it after chatzot on Erev Pesach. There's a famous minhag that after chatzot, on Erev Pesach, meaning 12 hours before Pesach, less 6 hours before Pesach, that's when you bake the matzah. Obviously today it's not Erev Pesach, but it's a beautiful minhag if anyone can. Now last 2 points, matzah shmura. What's matzah shmura? Guarded matzah. Guarded from when? So we are makbid, we are very careful by Pesach to take for our mitzvah, the matzah that we're using for the night of the Seder, flour that was guarded, protected from the time of the kitzira, from when it was harvested. We don't want any water to get into the flour whatsoever, even while it was only harvested. That's what we call matzah shemura, flour that was guarded from harvest. And last but not least, handmade versus machine-made. It's a big machloket as well. Lechatchila, Rabbi Chaim and Rav Ovadia explained that when we use the matzah for the Seder, we want to take handmade matzah. And then for the rest of the Pesach, you can use machine-made matzah. But ideally, for the mitzvah, we use handmade. But now there's a common misconception. Machine-made matzah can also be matzah shemura. Matzah shemura means that it was guarded from the time of harvest. The flour was guarded, and and there's no concern of chametz mixture. That flour can also be made in a factory as well. So just to dispel that misconception that matzah shemura is only handmade. No, you have shemura matzah that's also machine made, but ideally we take handmade for the mitzvah. And lastly, when making the matzah, we try not to have any non-Jews around. The mitzvah is very beautiful to us. We want to do everything ourselves. It's very important that the people making the matzah, everyone that deals with the kneading to the baking are Jews, and that's what we strive for with the matzot that we bring from Ukraine and the ones that we're making ourselves today. Have a wonderful day.